Hi, my name is Will. Welcome to the Distorted Transmission for today. I'm talking to Dan from Wellington band Clæmus. How are you?
Very well, thanks, mate. Thanks very much for having me on, having us on.
Cool. The rest of your band's missing, so maybe you can introduce them on their behalf.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as you see, I'm Dan. I'm the guitarist, play synths and stuff in the band. We have Kerry on bass and some vocals. We have Kit on drums, and then we have our illustrious frontman Taylor Hempson, who plays guitar and sings beautifully.
That's the intros out of the way. Next is the band history. You guys have been around since about what, 2015 or 2016, so it's quite a long history.
Yeah, that's right. So I, funnily enough, saw Claemus play with my previous band. They were on the bill and they were a three-piece. And I slid into their DMs and said, "You guys desperately need a second guitarist, and it should be me." And so that's how it all started. So yeah, so I've been in the band coming up on 7 years now. So this current lineup is about 7 years old. So yeah, we've been doing it a while now, which was a scary thought the other day. We realized it had been that long, and yeah, 7 years.
You not only play the guitar for the band, you also sort of produce the music as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So that's one thing I sort of have really enjoyed doing. We really like a DIY approach, and obviously, it started out a little rough, but as we've gotten better at it, and bought better gear and that kind of thing. Yeah, so everything that we record now is done by us. Generally, with the exception of the drums, where recently we've just hired Massey University. We use one of their drum rooms to do the drums, but everything else we do ourselves inside my little room in my house.
Are you going to give us a little tour? Show us the.
Yeah, I can give you a little brief tour. So it's pretty basic, but I have a lot of keyboards, a lot of synthesizers, just a bit of a rack of stuff down here. There's preamps and another set of keyboards, and then what every guitarist needs, a rack of guitars over here. And then vocal setup is just up here. It's all very simple.
Compact.
We're doing it on a budget, but yeah, got some sound treatments on the roof and on the walls, and yeah, it's good. It's a good room.
Some of those synths look reasonably vintage. There's that little wooden one in the corner that looks pretty old.
Yeah, that's actually, funnily enough, I think this is the way that most synth manufacturers like it these days. They like all their synths to look vintage. These are all actually brand new, basically.
Okay.
They're all sort of within the last sort of 5 years or so. They're all brand new models. But yeah, you're right. They do have that vintage look about them. But no, unfortunately, the vintage gear is comically expensive, comically expensive. I was looking at a Mini Moog the other day, and I swear it was about, might have been 20 grand for a Mini Moog, American for a Mini Moog, like an original one from the 70s. It was wild. So yeah, that's why I buy the new ones that are much cheaper.
There was a shop in Harajuku in Tokyo that I found, and it was like 2 stories, and they used to bring in old synths and sort of like do them up again, like ones that are old and broken, and there were synths that dating back to the maybe 60s. Some of the prices were pretty reasonable because they were kind of damaged or a little bit worn, but they were still working. It was a wet dream.
It's amazing, really, because synthesizers are actually, like analog synths, are actually super basic. Basic relative term. I don't know how it works, but I know that if you know a bit of electrical stuff and how that all works, then yeah, it's just transistors and solenoids and potentiometers and stuff. Well, I'm saying these words like I know what they mean, but I don't. But I do understand if you look under the hood of them, they are relatively straight up and down.
How much synth do you actually layer into the songs? Is it extremely prevalent, or is it sort of here and there?
Yeah, it didn't used to be so much, but now that myself, Taylor, and Kerry all play synths, we actually bring synths with us live as well. So Kerry has his synth on stage, so do I. And so because of that, yeah, we do like to try and play as much that is recorded as possible live. So that generally necessitates we have synths on stage, and in the actual songs. I mean, I think one of our songs on Daydream is there's like 30 or 25 channels of synthesizers and strings and yeah, stuff that you're barely ever going to hear, but it's there and it needs to be there to add that little extra je ne sais quoi, as they say.
Do you sort of rely on a little bit of a sort of a backing track to try to fill that out, or do you just?
Well, it's a new thing for us, yeah. So we are now playing with in-ears and to a click, which is a very, I mean, I'm sure you know what it's like, but it's a strange experience to get used to. And because of that, we basically only put into it things like acoustic guitars and the odd sort of bells and pianos and stuff that we can't. There's no way we could do it while we're playing guitars or singing or whatever. But yeah, mostly it's just very subtle layers. It's predominantly more the click so that we're all locked in.
All right, cool. So let's talk about some of your releases. Daydream was a 9-track album that dropped last year, I believe, and you're back with a new single, Purge, which came out in June this year. Is it part of a larger body of work to be seen coming out a little bit later on, or is it standalone? And how has the response to the single been?
We're really, really excited and humbled by how well it's been received. I mean, it's relative. We are a prog metal band, and we don't expect wide, mainstream acclaim. But the guys on the Rock, Lee and his late night show, he has got us on the Rock now, which is really cool. So we've been played a few times on there, I'm led to believe, and we actually managed to chart on the top 40, the singles chart somehow.
That's
so
awesome, man.
yeah, amazing. Yeah, it was a really big surprise to us. Honestly, like we don't do it because for any of those reasons. It's just been a byproduct of this one. So yeah, we're really stoked with how this one's been really received so far. So yeah. Couldn't be happier, really.
Is it a teaser for something huger, or is that?
Probably not. I think Purge will probably stand alone. We are working on new material at the moment. Purge was a song that sort of, I guess, we had started working on as we were finishing up Daydream, and it didn't quite fit the theme and style of Daydream. So because of that, we kind of left it off to one side and knew it would always be next cab off the rank for us once we had Daydream out. So I think most of Purge was actually finished relatively quickly before Daydream even released. But, so yeah, that will probably be standalone, I think, at this stage.
You did a small run of gigs recently, and I saw a few comments on the groups about how good people considered your band to be, as in, I think, yeah, somebody said, like, right now Clæmus is destroying your band or something, which is pretty funny.
Funny because we all got COVID in the middle of that tour, and we were all pretty scratchy as a consequence of it. So I'm a terrible critic of myself and of our band's performances. And I thought there was some nights where I just wanted to bury my head in the sand and pretend like I didn't play music anymore. But evidently it may not have come across that way out in the audience. But yeah, we were super humbled that tour went off in a lot of ways. We were very, very stoked to see everyone come out. We obviously had Pull Down the Sun and Lady as well, and we brought local acts for every show as well. And that, yeah, went off. I think we sold out Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, pretty much sold out Whanganui. Yeah, it was great. It was really cool.
Speaking of shows, I guess you've got some shows coming up, so maybe there's time to plug those. How's about that?
We've rebooked Napier. We couldn't quite make Gisborne work, unfortunately. So yeah, we are playing Napier and New Plymouth in September. So we're playing New Plymouth on the 9th of September. That's with Pull Down the Sun, us, a lady, and then we've got Shed coming along, the tremendous Tool tribute act. Yeah, they're ridiculous. And then we're playing in Napier, same three bands, and then we've come to Dolly as well on the 10th. On the 10th at Cabana, so that'll be great. And then we're playing with Caridian and Whanganui in October the 14th, and that's with Pull Down the Sun as well. So that'll be great too.
What can we expect from the band for the rest of the year? We're already halfway over, but
we just finished recording 2 more singles, which we did the drums for a couple of weeks ago, and so they will hopefully both come out in the next few months, and then we're actually going to knuckle down and just try and write effectively album or EP number 2. So we've got about 5 songs already, which are pretty much finished. So yeah, that's basically the focus now. And then the goal is to take that album overseas and go to Australia and do a few more gigs next year, and just really hone our craft and sharpen up our act a little bit, and see what we can do. So that's sort of the goals. These things can change. I mean, our album Daydream was meant to be released in 2020, and then the week that we were supposed to be recording it was our first week of lockdown. And so we all had to, we'd all taken 2 weeks off of our jobs to lock ourselves in my house for 2 weeks and record that album. And unfortunately, that couldn't happen. So that delayed the album by about a year. So I say that, hopefully we'll have another album out next year. But, who knows? Fingers crossed.
A lot of New Zealand bands particularly sort of suffered and sort of ended up sort of losing a year or year and a half of their sort of timeline to COVID, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the way it goes, man.
It's been really good to see the attendance at shows has been really good. And I know that, I've seen other shows and other genres and stuff that have been doing good numbers. I've got friends and, other bands, and I see their turnouts, and it's really great to see. So hopefully New Zealand can keep the support of us poorly musicians that have just had a year off of our of our trade.
All right, Dan, I guess that's about all the time we have for today.
Cool.
Thanks very much for the chat, and all the best for the band going forwards.
Thanks very much, Will. It's been great to speak with you. I really appreciate it.
Cool. All right, have a good night.
Cool, mate.
And thanks for watching.